the validation by Western universalism plays back on the source of that item. And the source culture feels that they've been validated because Western universalism is so powerful that if after all Western universalism wants it, then, if the tiger wants me, I must be good, that kind of thing. So I have a lot of deer, a lot of Indian deer who are saying, we are lucky because he's chosen us. He could have eaten goat or eaten something else. But he actually told me that I'm very delicious and I smell good and he likes me and all that. So people want to know what's wrong with being digestive. The simple answer is that the diversity that exists in the cosmos has a role to play. We call it Leela, divine play. There is a role for the deer. There is a role for all these things that exist. And when the result of an encounter between these two is that one of them ceases to exist, it's no longer living, it lives in a museum only, it's no longer an actual living, evolving thing, then you do not get the future benefits that it would produce. It is not static, it's going to produce more, it's going to evolve and produce more things. So the analog I give is fruit tree. If you harvest the fruit, then you must also nurture the roots. So you keep getting more harvests. But if you harvest the fruits and trash the roots, burn the roots, harvest the fruits, it's short-sighted. So that's what happens when you digest a civilization in a manner that the civilization is no longer a living entity. And that digestion often can be unintentional, it can be unconsciously done, it can be done in good intentions, and I'm globalizing it, and by removing all their Sanskrit words and the referring to their pioneers and calling myself the pioneer because I'm American and I can popularize it. I've had this argument also. I've sat down with all sorts of people, John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness meditation, Stephen LeVer's lucid dreaming, relaxation response by Herb Benson. I've been to 20 of these great digesters and had these encounters, and the argument they give is that it would have gone nowhere. When it becomes mine, it becomes legitimate because I'm American, I have all this clout, and so on. And that reminds me of something called the doctrine of Christian discovery. Doctrine of Christian discovery. After Portugal and Spain were naval powers discovering new lands, there was a huge discussion in the Vatican as to who owns all this, who is the owner of all this. And papal bulls, one bull after another, the papal bull is like decree, like fatwa, in Islam it's a papal bull. So papal bulls in the 1400s, many of them, said that the property, all of this is property of the Christian world. So when you discover, whoever discovers it first, you claim property of this on behalf of God, that you are sort of, because you're a Christian. So the fact that, this idea that Columbus discovered America, I always ask them, what about the natives who lived there for 10,000 years? You mean they had not discovered it? But you see, their discovery didn't count. Their discovery didn't count. So this idea that when the Christian landed, it comprises discovery, as if the people who were there never discovered it. So even today the books talk about, discovery of America, 1492, and I always raise my hand when I go to the National History Museum. I tell them that, those guys in the 4th floor, the Native Americans, they discovered America, And it creates a very interesting provocation for people to think about that. So this, in the age of Enlightenment and Reformation, it was no longer politically correct to say that. So rather than Christianity being the claimant of all discoveries and being the moment of discovery, it became the West. It became when the guy has medicinal properties in a plant and his ancestors have known it for a very long time and they've been practicing it, that is not discovery. But when I file a patent in accordance with Western universities and norms and standards of what constitutes patents, and I've done it that way, then I put my stamp and say, I own it, it's mine. So whether it is patents, whether it is neuroscience being done by studying yogis, whatever, these are all ways of digesting into the belly of Western universalism. Okay? So being different is a response to that, a challenge to that. It says that when you are doing that, you're actually leaving a lot of good stuff behind. You're not just destroying that culture because you're denying them their sense of history, you're also denying yourself, because you're taking only those things which fit your limited paradigm. And what doesn't fit your paradigm should actually challenge your paradigm. You should try to transform your own idea of your worldview, rather than trying to make them fit into your worldview. So the tension between that which is indigestible and the Western universalism is the meeting point, which every chapter of this book takes on another kind of difference, which is non-trivial. And I go through the whole book. What I'm telling you now is kind of a preface to the book, but the book itself summarizes very quickly and then gives you one difference after another in a very substantial way. And these differences are extremely deep. To resolve these differences, to get the full benefit of what I call the dharma civilization, one would have to make some compromises in one's worldview. I'm only looking for differences which are really tough. If it's a simple difference, pop culture, what clothes we wear, what food we eat, we all believe in certain common things. Those are not very interesting to me.